I was like standing on top of the podium, I was like, I made it. And then the next team I went to, fast forward 5 months into the season, we're 1-19. And my girlfriend and I broke up. The coach was a dick. My teammates, didn't care about really training hard. Nobody cared that we were losing. I really didn't have any friends. Even the weather was like gloomy and rainy. And I was just like, I can't be happy. I was like, I can't be happy. And I called my agent and I was like, I want to quit. I want to get out of here. And then he was like, just take a couple days to think about it. My brother gave me this book, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I read a couple pages and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, reality is not like this objective thing. It's subjective. Just like with prescription glasses, we can take different shades to how we perceive life. This isn't fair. Everyone's mean. It's not right. Oh, what a beautiful challenge. I love this. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. This is going to be, the best moment of my life. This is going to be the best day ever. So we have the ability to change our perception to whatever is happening around us. And I speak about this a lot. Again, the more discomfort, the more alone I feel without family, community. Those are the moments where I grow the most. And almost like a video game, like I level up and like I just don't go back down. Like I get like that high level. It's like, whoa, I learned like how much power there is in meditation. It's like, whoa, I learned I can be happy without a girlfriend. Whoa, I learned I can be happy without a son for 5 months of, And so you just learn that externally, I think this is like happiness, where like internal is joy, and that joy lasts longer. Whereas external, it feels great to win. It feels great to get a big contract, but those moments of happiness are fleeting.
Hey guys, and welcome to this week's episode of the CASPER BILTON podcast. And yeah, right before here, you heard Dustin Watten talking, and Dustin Watten is a professional volleyball player. He plays for the U.S. national team. He was on the U.S. national team who won gold in the World Cups. He also had a 10-year long professional career in volleyball in Europe. He played in Brazil. And we sat down and had a really great talk about life as a professional athlete and the ups and downs and what plant-based food can do for you.
And so my heartbeat plays to your song, and it never gets old. It never gets old. Feel my heart ache when you do.
What's up, my brother?
Hey Dustin, how are you?
Amazing. Look at that backdrop. You are freaking crushing it.
Thank you. I'm standing in our kitchen
That's beautiful.
at our restaurant, so it gives the restaurant vibe and the food going on in the background. And the
Yeah, man, that's beautiful bowls back there.
Thanks.
I have like the weirdest like fetishes. I like love my mason jars, and I love like a nice like wooden bowl.
Like you need to eat out of nice stuff. Like that makes food way more tasty.
Exactly. Let me fix this lighting. So
That's okay.
where are you coming out of right now? Or you're in Europe, right?
Yeah, I live in Copenhagen.
Nice. Were you born there, or are you American?
No, I'm Canadian actually. I'm
Even better.
half Danish and half Canadian. My dad is Canadian and my mom is Danish, and
Okay.
they met through basketball. So my dad played college basketball and my mom played like Danish, and he came here to play basketball. They met, and then
Heck yeah.
and then this happened. Like
Did you grow up in Europe?
yeah, mostly. Like they tried to start a life in Canada, in Calgary. So I lived there from when I was like, I don't know, 1 to 7 or something, and then they came back here. And yeah, I think it's a bit more easy as a young family to establish here, because I don't know, there's like with healthcare, and you get a lot of help with schools and stuff like that in Denmark. So they just figure out to stay here. So, but most of my family is actually in Canada, and yeah, I played handball on the Canadian national team as well. And,
No way.
Yeah.
That sport is wild. I never saw it before I came into Europe.
Yeah.
I was like watching it. I was like, is this like real life? This is like gladiator ball or something. It's
Yeah, that's true.
wild sport.
Especially because you're in Poland now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I played a couple years in France where it's huge, right? It's like the number 2, number 3 sport there.
Yeah, or in whole Europe, I would say it's probably the like after soccer, then handball is probably the second biggest.
Yeah.
In most countries, I think. Like Poland is really good at handball, and France is really good at handball. So they have like big leagues with lots of like divisions and stuff like that. So
I feel it's like a more precise rugby.
it's way better than rugby, I think. Like it's so fast, but you still have like the small court, and it's indoor, so you don't need to stand outside in the cold weather. So like that, it's a pretty cool sport. Like I don't play anymore. I stopped a couple years ago because of kids. I got 2 kids, and I started the restaurant and I tried to do like all 3, like being a dad, having a restaurant, and doing like professional sports, and that was just like too much on me. So that's why like I started this, and like I actually always start these talks with like talking like just a small bit about myself, so you know who you're talking to a bit. So right now, like I have a restaurant which is called Plant Power Food, where we focus on whole food, plant-based meals, and we show them off like, or serve them at like in the gourmet kind of way. So it's with like seatings and a waiter and all that stuff, and the food is like prepared from a real chef who stands here preparing stuff for you and stuff like that. And then it's also just to show off like the best side of what plant-based food can do.
Yeah.
And so these talks right now I'm having with like with you and with other like doctors. I'm having with some doctors as well. But this is going to be like my podcast thing as the owner, but to promote like the plant-based food again through the restaurant as well.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, I think like, because I think, I don't know how you feel, but I think we're a bit behind in Europe a bit with plant-based food. Like there's not so many restaurants and not so many people like talk that much about it. But I feel like it's going the right way, but we still don't have the focus of it, which what I can see they have like in the States and in Canada, like they have like more athletes talking about it, more doctors talking about it, and like organizations like together about this stuff. So I hope we can like try to get more focus on the plant-based food like in Europe and somehow.
I think, outside, I lived in Berlin and I lived close to Warsaw, and those places are blew my mind. But outside of these big cities, I think there's just too many misconceptions and assumptions, and those aren't positive.
And my story a bit with the plant-based and sports is that like I have a really strong story, because I'm voted 2 times vegan athlete of Denmark. But when I played handball in the highest club, I played for a club in the best league in Denmark, but we were maybe top 6 team. And then I chose when I was 21 to go vegan and plant-based, and I felt like all the energy and like I could just run and run and run. I couldn't do that before. And then I just started talking about it, and the club didn't like it, so they threw me out of the club.
Yeah, same with my national team.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They were like, we don't want you talking about it. They actually had a meeting.
Yeah.
They had like a meeting with like our nutritionist, our physio, our strength coach, our head coach, just like, because it was like 5 guys we had this like 4-month tournament. And at the end of the tournament, in the final round, there was like 5 guys requesting plant-based meals. And there was like 2 that like just wanted better meals, but so they can get the plant-based meals were like custom and better. And the coach was just freaking out, like, no, this is not happening on my team.
Yeah.
And so when we got back, we had like a break, and then we had a meeting, and it's just a weird dynamic. Our nutritionist too, when Game Changers came out, we were actually all overseas with our professional teams.
Yeah.
She sent personal messages to everyone on email and on Messenger with like debunking articles about it.
What, really?
So it's still like really like a hot topic. It's it's just like odd, but I'm just like,
What is so
at first too, I was like, especially my buddy, I was like, dude, it's going to help you so much if you're arthritis or tendonitis.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people were just kind of like, okay, like I get it. But then like, I just kept on doing it and doing a really good job in the weight room. And people were like, yeah, I'm like kind of interested.
Yeah.
So it's been really interesting too. My buddy that I was like really pushing on, we started living together and I started cooking for him. And he never wanted to admit like, okay, I like this or I'm vegan, but he started feeling better. He said he stopped taking ibuprofen. And then I think he told me the coach had a meeting and was like, I think you should be eating more animal protein. And he's like, no, like you don't tell me what to do. Like, this is my body. Like I take care of it. This is the best I've ever felt. And so it was really interesting. The first guy that was like really standoffish against it became like the biggest supporter because he did it and he just started feeling good.
Yeah, but you need to, that's what you need to listen to. Like, because the body tells you so fast. And yeah, but it's so crazy that there's so big misconceptions. I also talk with, because like when that happened to me, when I started talking positive about like plant-based and that stuff, and they threw me off. Like this year, I was still young in this club. Like I came to this club when I was 21 and played there for 2 years, and then I think the last year I played there, and that was like as a full vegan. I think I went vegan and plant-based like in the first year, but I didn't talk to anybody about it. And then the second year I started gaining like more games and gaining like experience and stuff. So I was like, now I can start talking about it because I have like the running test on my side. I have the more games on my side, and I'm actually a part of the team now, I felt. And then when I said it, there was like 10 games less, like there's 10 games more of the season, the playoffs. And then they just sat me behind the bench. And then because they found out of it because of an article on the internet, then they went out in the media to make another article against that article for people who read that article. Like,
it's wild. It's so weird.
Crazy.
And like for me too, I don't have any judgment against the nutritionist and the coach because, you know, you can go on any internet site and you can find something that said that's the best thing ever and something that's the worst thing ever. And, you know, she went to school and, you know, read a textbook that more or less was probably funded by, you know, Dairy Council or, you know, meat agriculture. And so, you know, what she knows is right because what she read is saying yogurt, cheese, we have, you know, Hershey's chocolate milk in our fridge for recovery. And it's just like, no, like that's great. Like even people that aren't vegan and are health conscious, they're like, I'm not drinking that, you know, but this is like what's supplied to like the top athletes in the world because they're getting money for it. And so there's actually, if you would like, I can also connect you with Switch for Good. Have you heard of that?
Switch for Good. It's like a website, right? With about switching plant-based, but they focus on athletes.
Yes, they focus a lot on athletes, also doctors, and so they did an ad in the Winter Olympics, and it rolled like 2 times, and then the USOC pulled it because dairy, I don't know what you call it, dairy lobbyists, whatever, saw it, and they told them to pull it. And so there's just, you know, there's too much money being placed from dairy, you know, even like you can go to McDonald's, you know, McDonald's is a sponsor. And so it's just not, it's not sincere. And I think athletes should be able to be empowered and to go whatever direction they want rather than just saying, no, like pushing them aside and say, you have to go this direction. This is the only way. Or it's okay, if you want to go vegan, like, let's help you. Like, are you eating legumes? Like, are you sprouting them? What are you doing for recovery? You know, here's some smoothies you can make. Do you like Buddha bowls? Like, let's go in this direction. For breakfast, you can do oats instead of eggs, rather than it's just like, no, you have to do eggs. No, you have to do yogurt. And again, no judgment, because these people believe they're doing what they know is right. You know, everyone has perceptions of life, even though, you know, pretty much everyone in the world, whatever they're doing, they believe is right in their perception, right? even the worst people in the world, what they're doing is like, well, this is right. I have to exterminate these people, or I need to like go to war. This is right. This is right for me. And so no judgment, but it's just odd. There's such aversion to people experimenting and going a different way with their nutrition, with their fuel, recovery, feeling good, and then almost shaming them for being so excited and wanting to help others.
Yeah. So did you think it's mostly because of the money? Like, because when you kind of pick plant-based food, you're stepping out of like a money bubble in some way. You're stepping out, like you're not giving money to like meat factories. You're not giving money to the dairy factories and stuff like that. And plus like the cost of the food that you have now you're eating is mostly less. Like broccoli doesn't cost a lot. Potatoes doesn't cost a lot. Yams doesn't cost a lot.
Well, there's no like broccoli lobbyist in government,
Yeah.
pushing for broccoli in the food pyramid.
Yeah.
And so there's just corruption at the very top, because I think recently in the food pyramid, I know in Canada they changed it a little more plant-based, but in America, I think they changed it and they upped it from like 1 glass of milk today to 2. And it's like, that's very beneficial if you sell milk, And so I don't know. I just believe that with meat and dairy, there is a coordinated movement to affect the government suggestions, especially with regards to elementary and high school. Back in the day, you had the milk does the body good. Growing up, I would read Sports Illustrated. You have the milk mustache from like Ken Griffey Jr. or Mark McGuire. You don't see Kobe Bryant eating sprouts, or Michael Jordan eating zucchinis, or, Drew Brees eating sweet potatoes. There's a lot more money in this, and creating this crafted image of like real men eat meat. I don't see it anywhere from the plant-based side, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But what is happening is more and more people are curious and open to getting different edges, because that's how I went into it. I was a professional, and going into my 3rd season, I was trying to read more sports psychology books, more mindset books, because my level wasn't good enough. In volleyball, for my journey, I had to start like in a really low league in Finland and work my way up. Now I'm in Poland, arguably one of the top leagues in the world, but I started in Finland making like 1,300 euros a month, like really not doing a lot. And my 2nd year was like a really bad year, where it was like, I think my career is over. If I'm not playing good in one of the lowest leagues in the world, what's going to happen? And so I started reading more and getting into more sports psychology, mindset books. And I stumbled upon Rich Roll's book. And I read that on the plane ride to France for my 3rd season.
Is it the Finding Ultra one?
Finding Ultra, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I read the whole book on the plane ride. And the first thought was like, whoa, I just read a whole book like in one day. I was like, that's pretty cool. And then the second thought was like, am I going to go vegan? And I was just like, well, like, it had a huge effect on this guy's life. He's 39 when he did it, thought he was going to die of a heart attack. Now he's like this ultra athlete. I was like, why don't I just try it? And that's been my approach throughout my career with going plant-based. I was like, well, I'll just try it. Meditation, well, I'll just try it. Visualization, I'll try it. Really pushing into stretching, rolling, journaling, everything. It's just like, I'm not the quickest, fastest, most technical player, but I can grab all these things outside of me, be more intentional, not only in practice, but being really intentional outside of practice, and get that edge on players that are my age, but they've already spent 7 years in the top leagues in the world crafting their skill. And so that's just how I've been. And I think more athletes like that are curious. So like, is there a better way? I'll try it. And when they try it, they're like, whoa, this is a better way. And then slowly they have this web where they're maybe not influencing their whole team, but maybe one guy on their team, maybe 2 guys on their team. For me, I influenced my dad because his family has always had bad cholesterol levels. And now what we know of epigenetics, that's only one part of it, right? It's the environment, it's the stress, it's the sleep, it's the food you're eating. And so he had a huge difference. He didn't want to go plant-based, but he did because he was so stressed and scared and didn't know when his time would run out. He didn't have a lot of weight to lose, but he did lose weight. He feels better. it took him a while to get comfortable in the kitchen, but now he's just crushing it in the kitchen. And that's another misconception. It's like, if I take meat, what will I eat? It's like, well, if you take away meat away, it's like 80% of the calories. You have to learn and find different foods and mix them together. And it's so much more of an abundant plate, so much more colors, texture, flavors. And so everything I thought what it would be like to go vegan is exactly the opposite contrast. And that's been the coolest thing ever.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And I also think it's way more fun to cook, like, because there's so many different stuff to cook out of. Where like you find out there's like quinoa, like just for rice, like there's quinoa, and then there's millet, and there's like just so many grains to like that, which has like a different texture and stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's how it was for me. Whereas like when I was eating meat, it was like some meat, potatoes, some meat, pasta, some fish, rice. And now it's like, okay, quinoa, sweet potatoes, zucchini, coconut milk, avocado, maybe a little nutritional yeast. I'll put some sesame seeds on top, because you need the quantity of food, because it's not as calorically dense as meat. And so you have to eat more, and you can't just eat a big bowl of zucchini. And so you get to be more creative. And then also it's now kind of changing, but the one thing I thought was really cool when I first went vegan, it was like impossible to eat fast food, which was great, because now I'm eating so much cleaner.
Yeah,
now it's kind of changing with Beyond Meat and stuff like that, where it's more accessible. But at first I was just eating so clean, and I loved it. And I had to prep. One of the big things I use is a hydro flask and smoothies. And I love that. It's so clean. And like right after the lift, right after my training, right after the game, I had this like amazing smoothie that's easy on my digestion and is making sure I'm recovering with so many vitamins and minerals.
Yeah. What, like how does your team now feel with your lifestyle?
What?
Well,
so I'm in Poland. I'm in Poland right now, and Poland's like very like meat, potatoes, like vegan. But there's a lot of guys on my team that are eating more plant-based, and they're feeling great. One of the middles always jokes and like looks in the mirror and pulls up his shirt, and he's like, yeah, because he's just so much more cut now.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the guys on my team, they're eating meat maybe once or twice a week. I would say maybe 30-40% of the guys are eating meat once or twice a week, and they're feeling great. And in Poland, that's like crazy. It's like mind blowing. For the USA team, there's a couple guys that, you know, are just a little more intentional with their health. It's really weird. You would think a lot of guys would be really intentional with what they eat, but some of the best players aren't. They're just so gifted they can get away with it.
That's crazy.
So it's really interesting. Some of the best players on the national team really eat poorly. A lot of guys in Poland before the games, after the games, are smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. Maybe you had the same experience. It's really interesting, like actually how most athletes eat and take care of themselves. But people are really open to it. There's a restaurant here in Poland. Everything's closed now, and so mostly they do takeout now. But 3 or 4 of my teammates are going almost every day, and it's a vegetarian takeout.
Nice. What city do you live in Poland?
I live in Katowice, Poland.
Is it a big city?
It's pretty big. It's right next to Krakow. I would say maybe top 5 for sure, top 8 like cities. And so it's almost like perfectly like in the middle of like Europe. And so it's been an area actually that's been like fought over for hundreds of years between Austria, Germany, and Russia. Yeah, I've been to Krakow once or twice. Like I think it's really amazing down there. Like beautiful. It's like the old versus new. It's still a lot of the infrastructure is open, the castle, but if you go inside, everything's modern. So it's beautiful. Just so much money, really progressive, and a lot of great vegan restaurants. Yeah, and that's what I remember from Krakow as well. When I went from there, like from here to there, like there was more vegan restaurants down there than we had in Denmark. So I thought like, and it's funny because you have that different
view on Poland when you're in Denmark, like because we get like lots of Polish like workers and stuff. So you just know Poland for like, oh, that's just like cheap workers coming here to like take our money if you're really Danish, right? But then when you go down there, they're like, oh my God, they're like ahead of us.
Polish people are great, and it's like you said, it's so crazy to live here, like how cheap it is. Like it blows my mind. And then I remember my first year, we're like, oh, we're going to Ukraine, and like we're gonna stay extra so the guys can shop because they think it's so cheap. I'm like, wait, what? There's somewhere cheaper than Poland?
Yeah.
But the Polish people, I love this country so much. They're
they're really nice.
They're great. They're great people.
And but how do you feel? How was it back when you lived in France? Was it as good or?
Oh, so messy.
Yeah.
When I first went vegan, it was 2012, and we would. I lived with 2 Americans, and we had kind of a commute to practice, like 25 minutes. And so for a lot of our morning practices, we'd eat at this hospital for like a really discounted rate. And it was like, they didn't have anything for vegan. And so I was like, most of the time I had to be like kind of vegetarian. And then traveling too, I told my team, I'm like, hey, I'm vegan. And they're like, okay. And so it'd always be like buttered pasta, or like buttered green beans, and it would be egg pasta. And I'm like, I'm vegan, I can't eat this. And they'd be like, oh, do you eat pork? I'm like, no, I'm vegan. Do you eat fish? And this happened for like the whole 8 months. And like one of the Americans actually went vegan. At the end, he was like, no, I don't eat pork. Like I'm like, they just didn't understand the concept. And when I would go out to eat too, I'd be like, oh, I want like a pizza, like sans fromage without cheese. And they'd like laugh. They're like, oh, you don't understand what you just said. You just said without cheese. And they're like, okay, I'll put cheese. I'm like, no cheese. They're like, oh, okay. And they're like, oh, this guy. And so they just didn't understand the concept. I heard from a French teammate a couple of years ago that things are changing now, but France in 2012 was like vegan like purgatory. So it was tough. On contrast to that, the next year I went to Brazil, and that was like vegan paradise. Even though they love their barbecues, they always had beans, they always had rice, they always had fresh fruit, fresh tropical fruit, and like amazing like veggie selections. And so that was paradise. The food was so fresh, like they knew how to cook beans. And so, yeah, it definitely differs. But like you said, you learn how to cook. And I think that's like the best thing ever. It's like pretty much in life, it's like, if you find discomfort, you're going to grow. You're either going to quit or you're going to grow. And more or less, I don't quit. And so I get to grow out of that discomfort. And so I've been really grateful for the years in France where there wasn't a lot of options I could seek outside, and I have to learn how to cook.
Yeah. How does it look for like an athlete meal of the day? Like if you can just guide us through from you wake up kind of until you go to sleep, and also with like your practices, like how does it look?
Yeah. So in the morning I'll wake up. I'll usually do like a glass of water with a little lemon and pink Himalayan salt. I'll do that. I'll meditate. I'll make a little homemade cashew milk matcha latte. I'll read for a little bit. Once that settles, I have 2 go-to breakfasts. One in the winter, it's like a little turmeric ginger oatmeal. And on top of that, I'll put some bananas, maybe some peanut butter. Always have buckwheat sprouts somewhere along the lines, maybe some frozen berries. And if not that, I'll do like a green, like nice cream bowl. And inside of that, I'll put ginger root, turmeric root, a little black pepper, some dates, cinnamon, peanut butter, almond butter, either spinach, kale, frozen bananas. And on top of that, dates, buckwheat sprouts, maybe some dried mulberries, maybe some dried elderberries, goji berries. I'll take off to practice, and then depending on what it is, maybe I'll bring a smoothie with me. Maybe I'll come back home. But usually like another smoothie bowl. I really just feel good eating raw throughout the day. And then maybe for the evening practice, I'll bring like a snack after. So maybe like leftover smoothie and like some chia seed pudding. And then I'll come home. And one thing I've been really liking right now is either buckwheat noodles or rice noodles. And then I'll put in a pan some some garlic, zucchini, maybe some broccoli. And then I'll put some coconut milk on top of that, turmeric, cumin, maybe some nutritional yeast. So kind of making this like coconut cheesy noodle bowl. And on top of that, some sesame seeds and some avocados and beans.
Nice. I like that you like do that like smoothie that much. I felt like when
I'm a fiend for smoothies. It just feels so good going in, and it feels so good like after with the digestion. I don't feel like I'm carrying around, or it's like, oh, I need like more time for this to settle. It's just like I'm able to, especially in the midday, I like to be able to recover and refuel, because I have things I have to do, or things I want to do. Rather, most of my teammates will take a nap, throughout the day. And like, I don't want to be napping. I want to sleep at night. And so that's just the thought. It's just easy to digest and get up and keep on moving.
Yeah. It was one of my first mistakes as a vegan, because like, I think I did that where you took the meat out, and then I just ate more vegetables. And then I forgot like the calories that I still need to get, like all the calories for the day. And then until like I started smoothieing, I could like just put like 1,000 calories in the smoothie. I could just like drink it, and then I was just ready. And so that's one of the tips I always give to people, like especially athletes when they turn plant-based, to remember and learn how to smoothie and make good, nice smoothies, because like you need it. Like you need those calories down, especially if you have 2 practices a day.
It's a game changer, especially on the road. When we travel, like on the bus, I'll bring minimum 1, maybe 2 smoothies in like a hydro flask, like a vacuum sealed bottle. And so we're traveling maybe 5-6 hours. We'll stop at a McDonald's. Guys will get food there. We'll stop at a gas station, and I have like a smoothie with like whole foods in it. And I feel great. If I have that second smoothie, I'll also have it after our evening practice once we arrive. And there's some other things too, just, getting bit so often in the past, where I'll bring avocados for the meal. So even if the meal sucks, I can have avocado of extra calories and a little better taste. And so, but the smoothies, especially on the go, it's just a game changer.
How do you see, like, I just need to think about how to say this question, but like what does the club give you guys to eat when you go to away games?
Yeah, the club does a really good job. I put together like a list of foods that I want, or maybe combine together. And so there's like maybe once or twice throughout the year where I just get like a really crappy meal, but they put together some good stuff. And it's something like a stir fry. And then I'll have an avocado to just complete the meal.
Okay. But how about for the non-vegans? Like what do they serve them there?
In Poland, it's usually like a buffet style. For lunch, we'll have a soup. And then for dinner, there'll be like buffet, and then they'll have stuff to make sandwiches after. I don't know why, but like sandwiches are huge in dinner time here.
Okay.
But it's something like rice, pasta, or buckwheat. And then usually like chicken and vegetables, and bread, something like this.
Yeah. Also for away games?
For away games, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's pretty cool.
For home games, we're on our own. Some teams it's different, like they'll provide meals for you for game days, but on home games here, we're on our own.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I'm grateful for.
Yeah. No, because I was just thinking about that when I learned about plant-based food and started seeing my teammates, and the food they gave us was like a pasta salad with like lots of like milk dressing and with like chicken in it, and even like they would put like bacon on top of it, and then they would eat this, like they would give this to all the players like 1.5 hour or 2 hours before a game.
Absolutely. The last game we had crepes for our pregame snack, crepes and yogurt.
And then afterwards they go like always, like the club goes like, oh my God, we always suck so much when we play away.
Yeah. And again, it's just like misconceptions, where it's just like, we've just been lied to by people who will make a lot of money of us believing those lies, that like eat yogurt, that like milk is the perfect food, chocolate milk's the perfect recovery. It's just propaganda. It's just a good PR agency.
Yeah, that's true. What do you do with like training camps? Like, do you need to prepare a lot, or or are the teams good at like helping you out?
We don't necessarily have training camps.
Oh, you don't?
Everything will be done in the city. So like,
Okay.
just like today, or like I'll wake up here, I'll go to practice, I'll come home, I'll go to practice, I'll
So
come home.
your teams never go on like team building stuff and like in preseason?
Sometimes, but I've always been with the national team, and so I usually come a month or two later.
Okay. Oh, that's lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's good. Because I thought that was one of the biggest obstacles, was to figure out what to do on those small trips, because they like the teams here, like handball is not a sport with lots of money in it, so it was always everybody eat the same, and so I had to I always took like two extra luggage with me, with oats and with milk and with like stuff to make smoothies.
Yeah,
Like
I bring my blender when I travel on the road.
what was that?
I bring my blender when we travel on the road.
Really?
I work with this company in America called Sprout Living, and they have these like amazing, they call it like equivalent meals.
Yeah.
And so I'll put like a banana, a couple dates in that equivalent meal with water and ice, and it's like the perfect pregame smoothie. And then I'll also make a post-game smoothie, because I don't know what the recovery is going to be like after the game, and maybe it's a 5-6 hour bus ride.
Yeah.
And so I'll put that smoothie in a hydro flask, and I'll have that smoothie right after the game. So I don't have to rely on being like a great dinner. So the dinner can just be like, okay, whatever, it's good. But I'll bring the smoothie, I'll bring a blender, and I'll bring an equivalent meal for breakfast, assuming the breakfast is super bad, which usually is, pre-game and then post-game.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Like, and also like it seems maybe at first that it's actually harder, but it's also like making life easier a bit. You learn how to make your life easy.
Yeah, it's just preparing. That's all it is. It's just like being a professional and like preparing yourself better, rather than like, oh, the food sucked and so I played bad. Well, it's like, well, this is a possibility. The food's gonna suck, right? And so it's like, just go shopping before and like buy some avocados, buy some bananas, and like this is our job, and like our performance dictates, it has a correlation with how much money we make going forward. And so it's like, if you wake up in the morning after 6 hours of sleep and you feel tired and you don't practice well, it's like, maybe I should get a little bit more sleep. And it's like, I'm getting injured a lot. Maybe I should stretch and take care of and roll my body more. It's like, you can't get burned so often that you don't make these changes. And so if sports and athletics longevity is a priority for you, like you have to start seeking out these edges. And so that's pretty much the only reason I'm at the level I am, because like I said, I started professional when I was 24, so in one of the lowest leagues. It took me 4 years to get to like a top league, and it's just finding different edges, and most of those edges are outside the court.
Yeah, but I think you're lucky in some way that you had that mentality, because I don't believe that most athletes think like that, even though you think they should.
I was always like, I got a late start to the game, and I was like, my first tournament I played in, it was like this nationals tournament, and my team literally got dead last. And so I was just like, well, I just got like thrown into this like growth mindset where it's just like, well, I suck, but I can get better. And so I was like, there's weird things that happen in life where you don't necessarily want them to happen, but they can be like the best catalyst for growth. And so getting last place in that tournament was great, because I thought I was like freaking sweet. I came in wearing like Nike wristbands. I'm like, I'm a baller. Here I come. We got dead last. And it was just like, I had to like eat it and then like figure out what I was going to do. And that's like the one thing too, outside of finding these edges, where it's just like, I just always get up. There's like this amazing Japanese quote, something like fall 7, rise 8. And that's just kind of who I am. It's just like, I fail, I hit roadblocks, I hit setbacks, but I use those to pivot and like to find the lesson and like bring more intention and more purpose to my training and to my life. And so I don't repeat those failures.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's good. What position do you play in volleyball?
So I'm libero. It's like usually in volleyball, there's like a bump, a set, a spike. And I'm like specialty person for bumping. So I'm 183 centimeters. I'm like really small for a volleyball player, but that's because I specialize in this first contact or defending the attack.
Yeah. So is that like kind of like a receiver? Like you receive the balls the most, and so you're on the ground, kind of.
On the little guy.
Yeah. Well, I also noticed about you, like following you different places on social media, is like you're really good at like watching your own games.
Yeah, exactly.
Why
it's just another thing where it's just like, I think it's the best way to learn is by watching the best players in the world and also watching myself and just like, how can I be a little bit better? What can I do like to be more efficient, to be more consistent, and to be simpler, right? And so I'm just so curious to learn there's a better way. Like, I just want to keep on learning. And as soon as I get bored of learning, I'll quit.
Yeah. I think with that mentality and with like the video stuff and the nutrition, like that's just stuff that can bring you up like all the time. Like, so if you keep that mentality and even like learn younger athletes to have that type of mentality, would bring most people far. Because sports is about mentality and how you act. Like I also played, I don't know if you agree with this, but I played in maybe the 3 best leagues in Denmark. So I also, a bit like you, I started low and I just worked myself up. But to be honest, like the athletes in like the lower leagues, it was not that they were like bad at handball or bad at sports. It was more like their mentality wasn't ready to like go up in the leagues.
Same in France. It was like guys, when they show up to practice, they're just like, all right, like I'm just showing up because since I play in the 2nd division, I don't have to work in the summer and I can go to the beach. Like just like incredibly lazy. And you see like now playing in Poland, the top division, everyone's coming in like half an hour, if not more, early, doing extra warm up with their arm, getting extra reps. And they're just like committed to being their best self. And I think I love stoicism, this thought of the dichotomy of control, and being clear what is not completely in my control, what is completely in my control. So a lot of these outcomes are not completely in my control. No matter how hard I prepare, how hard I try, I can't say that I'm going to have a specific performance during the game, or I cannot say with certainty that my team's going to win. But I can commit myself to getting good sleep, watching video, getting extra reps, stretching, taking care of my body, putting my blue light blockers on so I get better sleep, eating nutrient-dense food to help me fuel and recover. And if I do all these things, you know, it's going to correlate to these things that I don't have complete control over: playing a good game, winning, team doing well in the league, getting a better contract for next year, because I can't control these things, but these things over here, if I commit to them consistently, will correlate to them. Yeah,
that's right. Also, I think it was fun. Like I found an article on you called the most Zen guy in volleyball. Is that true?
Probably. I just don't think a lot of people meditate a lot, I would say. I'm just, I was in a really tough situation in Brazil, playing in Brazil. And I thought this was going to be like one of the best things that ever happened to me. And it was one of the most difficult things that have ever happened to me. But because of that, again, these moments of discomfort lead an individual to go within deeper. And that time I found meditation, and I just realized like how powerful it is to increase the space in between stimulus and response, right? You know, someone yells at you, you have 4 bad plays in a row, your team has lost 5 games in a row. A lot of people will shout or be angry or curse. And I just think we can respond better, however we want to respond. But the power of being able to respond rather than react, I think is really powerful. Even getting benched, you know, you can like throw the water bottle, like slash the chair, or you just sit and be like, all right, I obviously need to be better. So like, let's get better intention going into next week of training. And so just how I perceive these setbacks and failures, I think are different than most people, because I see them for what they are. And I understand there's a lot of power to being fatalistic to the past and even the present, but it's up to us to take the responsibility and to be intentional to change the future and not be fatalistic to the future, because that's up to us to create with better and clear intention. And so I would think so. You know, I'm not the most technical player. I'm really slow in a position where I should be fast, but yet I still think, you know, I'm one of the best liberos in the world. And so I think this possible Zen persona has a lot to do with that, and that stillness where I'm consistently really good, where a lot of other liberos are like super great, but also like can be super tragic.
Yeah. And you kind of actually answered some of the questions on what I wanted to ask you now, but what I felt and in sports is that there's so many like downhills, like there's so many times where like I feel like for sports is like you fail, and then you like succeed once, and then you have like that moment of joy, and then you fail until you succeed again. Like how do you take care of that problem as an athlete? Because like failure as an athlete is like so often, I felt like.
Philosophy has helped me a lot, finding stoicism. One of my years, in the summer, I just made my first team first trip with the Team USA. And actually the person ahead of me got injured, so I had to play, and I played really well. We got a bronze medal at the tournament. And after that, I went to the World Cup. I didn't play, but we won the World Cup. And I was like, I made it. I was like standing on top of the podium, I was like, I made it. And then the next team I went to, you know, fast forward 5 months of the season, we're 1-19. And my girlfriend and I broke up. The coach was a dick. My teammates, you know, didn't care about really training hard. Nobody cared that we were losing. I really didn't have any friends. Even the weather was like gloomy and rainy. And I was just like, I can't be happy. I was like, I can't be happy. And I called my agent and I was like, I want to quit. I want to get out of here. And then he was like, just take a couple of days to think about it. My brother gave me this book, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I read a couple pages and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, reality is not like this objective thing. It's subjective. Just like with like prescription glasses, we can take different shades to how we perceive life. This isn't fair. Everyone's mean. It's not right. Oh, what a beautiful challenge. I love this. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. This is going to be, you know, the best moment of my life. This is going to be the best day ever. So we have the ability to change our perception to whatever is happening around us. And I speak about this a lot. The more discomfort, the more alone I feel without family, community. Those are the moments where I grow the most, and almost like a video game. Like I level up and like, I just don't go back down. Like I get like that high level. It's like, whoa, I learned like how much power there is in meditation. It's like, whoa, I learned I can be happy without a girlfriend. Whoa, I learned I can be happy without a son for 5 months of, you know? And so you just learn that externally, I think this is like happiness, where like internal is joy, and that joy lasts longer. Whereas external, it feels great to win. It feels great to get a big contract, but those moments of happiness are fleeting. Whereas like the joy is like being compassionate, giving, volunteering, being grateful, finding abundance, telling someone that you love how important they are to you, telling your friends how grateful you are for them. And like each day waking up and the Stoics kind of talk about desiring those things which are already within your life, rather than seeking validation in the future that may or may not come. And so we leave ourselves vulnerable to suffering by not achieving those things that we believe we need to have to make us happy.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is that when you're an athlete, you need to remember to meditate.
Pretty much. I think meditation and journaling are the most powerful things you can do, because especially with journaling, you start today with like, what am I grateful for? And so it's like, you're filling your cup, right? You're not like a beggar waiting for someone to like validate you, or for the practice to go well, to feel complete or to feel whole. You already realize how much abundance is already within your life. And then from there, I have a purpose. Usually it has to do with volleyball. I want to work on this. I want to work on that. And then intention, again, going back to stoicism, what are 3 things that are completely within my control? Not like, oh, I want to have a good practice today. Okay, well, that's not completely in your control. I want the coach to say nice things to me. That's not completely in your control. Maybe you had a bad day or something. What are 3 things that are completely in control? So that can be something like, I want to meditate for 30 minutes. I want to devote 20 minutes to reading. I want to write some more. I want to, stretch. I want to get extra reps. And so it's these things that are important to your success or development as an athlete or just a human, and you can commit to them without anyone interfering. And then at the end of the day, you acknowledge what was difficult, right? What was my biggest challenge today? So you get it out. You're like, well, I didn't do a good job on this, or, defense, I could have been better. And then you flip that right away. Okay, what can be my intention going in tomorrow? Okay, I want to do this because I wasn't good at defense. What can I do differently tomorrow? Okay, I'm going to call the coach, and then I'm going to get to practice early and work on defense. And so it's like, boom, it's like you're embracing your failures and your setbacks, and you're able to flip them into your greatest teacher. And so it's like, no matter what happens, you're working with intention. More than likely, you're going to improve as a human or an athlete. And then when you do hit those failures, you can use those to pivot rather than just like this zero-sum game where it's like, I had a great practice, I'm happy. I had a bad practice, I'm sad. And so it's like, if I had a great practice, it was like, great, keep on working, keep on doing what I'm doing. If I had a bad practice, it's like, all right, let's reevaluate it. Where can I be better? What are things I can cut out in my life? Yeah, I stayed up and watched too much Netflix. So it's like, I know this doesn't benefit my ability to wake up with good energy. Let's cut that out for tomorrow night. And so just always being intentional and, taking stock. And like I mentioned before, being fatalistic to the past. Okay, I had a bad game. I'm not going to wallow about it and suffer and cry. I'm going to watch the video. I'm going to learn from it. And I'm going to have more intention, maybe more creativity in training rather than just focusing on it. Because the longer I focus on my problems, the more energy, clarity, and focus I siphon from moving forward.
Yeah. How do we get more athletes to do stuff like this? Like, because I agree on you, but like when I was young, and when I probably needed the most, like I didn't do stuff like that. That's what
I heard. I was just lucky, my parents. This thought in America right now is like growth mindset or fixed mindset, where fixed mindset's like good, bad, dualities, whatever it may be. My parents just always said they're proud of me, and so it was up to me how I competed, where I would hear that feedback, because it would be, we're proud of you or we're not proud of you. How I competed, right? Yeah. So there's times where I was like a jerk on the court. They're like, hey, we weren't proud of you competed. But more than likely, they were proud of how I competed, and they would be proud of me if I played good or I played bad. But how I competed, it was completely up to me. And now speaking with a lot of younger athletes and even professionals, they get in a situation where it's just not comfortable or they don't feel good. And it's just like, well, I'm going to quit. And it's like, what? Like, this is like where the magic happens. And so I didn't quit because in a weird way, I was really insecure. And like, for a lot of athletes, it's hard to lose that badge. It's like, I'm an athlete, and I wasn't ready to do that. And so I just kept on finding ways to continue further. And so my path wasn't like a true path where everyone's like, oh, you're so like courageous or still. I was like, no, I was just really insecure. And this is like the only path I knew. And so just quitting for me wasn't an option. And because I didn't quit in these difficult moments, I was able to go really deep within myself and pull myself out. Because especially when you're in Europe, you don't have this family, maybe you don't have a girlfriend, you don't have a lot of friends, you don't have community. And so you have to like find solutions, and that's it. It's just finding solutions rather than focusing on the problems. And too many athletes now, too many people just focus on problems, and they're focused on things outside of them. And it's just like, you can't focus on this because you can't control how people are going to act. And this is kind of like where this cancel culture is coming in now, because the louder people yell, it's almost happening, but it's just like, you have to take responsibility, and there's a lot more power within than without.
Yeah. How do you meditate?
I just like this thought where I'll just sit and just kind of focusing on the sensation of my breath. Sometimes I'll go the physical sensations of my body, but just kind of like this Vipassana style, where it's just focusing on the sensation of the breath entering and leaving my nostril. And then, we're always going to lose this consciousness and the focus on the nose and get caught in thoughts. And when I realize I'm caught in the thoughts, it just depends. If it's a creative thought, maybe I'll play with it and see where it takes me. I have my best ideas meditating. If it's a debilitating thought or a thought that really doesn't bring any value into my life, I just let it sit for a while and I observe it and I let it dissolve rather than trying to repress it, suppress it, but mostly just trying to focus on the sensation of my nose, the breath coming in my nose. Because it's going to be the same thing when I'm inside of a game or someone's yelling at me. It's just like, I need to come back to my breath. And then after a while, I can respond rather than like just reacting.
Does any of your coaches, like within your career, has been on path with this like meditation vibe and or?
Yeah, the current national team coach is quite conscious of it, and he'll lead us sometimes through visualization, sometimes through meditation. My old coach in college recently has been more on this as well. They do yoga, they meditate, they do visualization as well. I think this is the next frontier in American sports. You know, I think we're kind of late, especially with Phil Jackson doing such a good job with the Bulls and the Lakers. But I think more people are starting to understand the power of that, because I think it's like the number one foundation for teams to overperform. Where again, it's just like if things bad are happening, they're like, oh no. Where it's like you can build athletes where like when things get tough, they're like, oh yes, this is great. This is like where we really get to show ourselves. This is where we get to come together as a team. And so I think with mindfulness, it's just it opens up to a different way to perceive failures and setbacks rather than just like this insecure notion of like, I'm not playing good, everyone thinks I suck.
Yeah. Do you feel like you can bring that same mindfulness if your diet is based on like meat?
It's possible, but going vegan was like the first step to spiritual growth for me.
Yeah.
I became, I don't know, like I know some people philosophize about like how energy is changing with like the meat that's killed and then to your body as well. Yeah. And like, I believe it because before I went vegan, I was like so angry, so resentful of like the other players, you know, I'd curse through the net, I'd rip my shirt. And once I went vegan, I stopped that. And I was just like, I started going up to the players, like the foreign players, be like, hey man, how are you? Like, it's good to see you. How's everything? Whereas before I was like, I want nothing to do with you. You're on the other team. Like, I want to beat you. I don't want to shake your hand. Like in France, you had to like shake hands before the match, like in training and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't want to touch their hand. Like, I don't care about this person. Yeah. And so you just become much more compassionate, not only to animals, but to people as well. It wasn't overnight for me with animals, but like eventually it hit too. And like the ethical responsibility became like very clear for me.
Yeah. But it sounds like that you have changed your drive to win as well, where back then maybe your drive to win was because of that person. I need to win over him. And now maybe the drive is a bit more like because I can change what I'm doing and or what?
Exactly. It's before it was like anything to do to win, I'm gonna win. Like I'm gonna tear you down so I can rise above. Where now it's almost like when I play against other great liberos, I'm like, wow, I'm so blessed to be on this side and play against this great libero. I hope he does a great job and push my level. And so like, that's how I think, or it's just like, I hope this team plays great because then I get to see my level and like reassess it. And so I'm like, great, you know, I love playing against great teams. I love my teammates are pushing me because that's going to push my level rather than just like one wins, the other loses. And so just always like, always embracing the biggest challenges now and then being able to like reassess like where I am and how I can be a little more intentional, how I can grow, how I can be more purposeful. And at the end of the game, it's like, again, being fatalistic to the past. It's like, once the game's over, it's like, I lost. It's over. And like, I'm going to smile. I'm going to say hi to these guys. Like, yeah, I did my best and you know what, the game's over and I'm going to watch video. I'm going to learn from it. But once the game's over, it's over. And like, I'm going to live a joyous life. I'm not going to carry that resentment. I'm not going to carry that negative frequency, that negative energy. Like, and sometimes it's easier than others. Sometimes it can be hard, but it's just like, I know that the more resentment I hold, the more frustration, the more sadness, the more shame, the lower quality of my life is going to be. And the slower I'm going to be able to find solutions to move forward.
Yeah. You don't feel that if you show that way of being an athlete, that some coaches or teammates or would think that you're not taking the sport seriously?
For sure. That's something probably too, but I also play at a really high level. Like I compete really hard. And they see how I prepare, how I show up early, I stay late, I put in the work, but I think it's like, again, just another poor assumption that you need to be angry, you need to scream kurva, you need to scream whatever to show that you're like a real athlete in it and you care. But if anything, I think it's the opposite, because you're so insecure that you're yelling to deflect anyone coming up to you and helping you. And if anything, too, you're being more individualistic. You're going away from the team. You're yelling. You walk off to the side. People are like, dude, it's okay. Like now everyone's like, what's wrong with him? Rather than like, oh, he's calm. He's ready for the next point. Good. Like, we got this. I love this quote, calm breeds calm. And that's what I try to exude all the time. This stillness, this confidence, this calm.
Yeah. I played against one of the best handball players in the world one time. He was a Norwegian guy, and I was young. I was sitting mostly on the bench in that game. But this guy, he was like I don't know, the LeBron of handball. I would say, really cool. And then he would, when he was in offense and he didn't have the ball, he would just chat with us young players from the other team. I thought it was so cool, and it was also so annoying that this guy was so good, but just showing that he was could have a good talk while playing with people he don't really know. So it kind of also shows that you're ahead of other people when you have the breath to do stuff like that.
I think it's clear that when you are still, when you're having fun, when you have this childlike energy, you're loose, you're creative, you're able to be more present, and you're able to enter that flow easier than being tight and strict and pulsing your body and I need to win this point. And then if you don't get the point, you're even more so this attachment to the expectation you don't have control over, where the other team gets the point, you're nice one, but I'm going to get this one now. And this light energy. So that's just how I play. I know some guys like to go the other way, but I just think it brings more suffering throughout the match and more tension, which I don't think leads to good results. Yeah.
And I thanks for these words, man, because I feel this was the positive thinking and this problem with failures, and also this with the childish behavior where play because it's fun and not because you need to be good at it. I think that ruined me a bit as an athlete, and that's why I probably also stopped a couple of years ago, because I couldn't really get through that. I was always pissed if it was a bad practice, or if a teammate has yelled at me, I would just be so pissed at him. I couldn't lay it down. And then today, because I was actually cleaning up my YouTube to make these shows, I saw a really old video of me playing handball the first year of my professional handball, and my thought today was, I played like that because it was before people broke me. That was my thought today. Yeah. Even though it was probably myself who broke myself because I went into their way of doing stuff. But it was just nice. I could see a video of me where I was I'm playing handball. I'm not just on the contract doing what the coaches say.
Yeah, 100%. It's the same thing happened to me in Brazil. I broke, and I found, what came into my life was shame. And that was the first time I ever dealt with shame. Yeah. And, I had to go deep within me to break out of it. And I was, luckily, but there was 2 years, and it was just there's so much shame, and I just loathe the sport.
Yeah. The shame is hard, man. Just the shame of sitting on the bench for a couple of games in a row or something. And you kind of feel like everybody at this gym is just looking at you and thinking, why is he sitting on the bench? Is he bad or something like that? That's how I felt.
Yeah.
And like I wish I could like with this knowledge now, which I'm like gaining, and like I kind of like dream back and think like how could I have done stuff differently in situations which you describe really good. So yeah, thanks for that.
You're welcome, my brother. It's great connecting.
Thanks for fucking my mind more.
That's what I do.
Yeah, that's good. No, we need it. So yeah, it's really good to have this talk with you. And yeah, what's your plans for the future? Like now we've been talking a lot about the past, and like what's in the future with you?
I play a couple more years. Now I have a girlfriend that, you know, I'm deeply in love with, but she's working as an RN in America. So
Okay.
maybe a couple more years and starting to build these courses for athletes, just mind body courses, a lot of technical courses, but also do some on nutrition as well. And I just want to empower and enrich the community. I had like a pretty nice, like deeper dose of mushrooms the other day, like for the first time. And it was just like, I had this, you know, downloads where it's just like, you know, more or less like there is no death, like our life is going to continue. I just felt like this deep calm, and it was just like, you know, I'm here for a reason. And that's like to empower people. Like we're all like God experiencing life. And so that's just my goal. I want to push in whatever gets me out of bed and passionate, and make sure that passion is empowering people to live their best life. And so I don't know exactly what that's going to be right now. I'm like really pushing these volleyball courses. I love video editing, but you know, probably eventually down the road, like helping people with mindfulness. I just want to help people be a better version of themselves. And like, that's my life plan, just empowering, enriching people's lives.
Yeah. That's a good plan. Like that brings good to the world. Bet. Like, do you have like how long time in Poland are you staying? How long is your contract?
A month and a half. And actually right now, before our talk was speaking a little with my agent. So just trying to figure out what I'll do next year. Yeah. But a month and a half more for this year. And then I'll go back to the States and travel around and go help out kids and just be of service.
Okay. And how is the professional not basketball, like volleyball in the States? Is there
volleyball?
Yeah.
We don't have a league. Our national team is really good though.
Yeah. How come there's no league?
There was one like in the 80s, but it was like it was used to like clean money for like this huge Coke operation, from what I've heard. And it just never really got back again. So we'll see. There's a guy trying to get a league next year, but yeah, there was a league for a while. It was like a co-ed league, but it was just a front for like this huge drug operation, from what I've heard.
How did that work? Like, do you know more of that story?
No, I just heard it was like a front for this huge like Coke dealership, and then eventually the guy got busted and the league was done.
Oh shit. Okay.
Good times.
Yeah. It must have been some good games. And like so that's funny because sports in America is just based on the ones you know. And when it's like a smaller sport, they don't really focus that much on it. Is that?
You just have to get on TV somewhere. And that's just not the case for volleyball.
Yeah. Because I know the same from handball, because handball is so big in Europe. And then when you look at the sport, like many people think like, hey, this would actually be a really cool sport for Americans, because you have the fast pace and you have the goals and you have the indoor facilities and stuff like that. But
I don't know. It's just, I don't know. There's like those three sports that like got off to a strong start, and I don't know. Hopefully it changes.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, that's the problem with like the Canadian national team in handball, is that like, there's no league over there. And there's like a small league, like a tournament every year. And then if you want to play, you need to go to Europe like you. And but these players only stay here maybe for a couple of years, and they go back, and then the national team just doesn't develop correctly, I think. Or yeah. So good. Yeah, thanks for the talk, Dustin. It was really nice to meet you, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, my brother, I appreciate it. If I can ever be of value any other way, just just reach out, and I'm happy to help any way I can.
It never gets old. Feel my heart ache when you do me wrong. Now I just wanna know. I just wanna know. The chains I bear are often on my feet, and it makes me wanna cry when I see you come near. And in the dark you said you only wanted me, and then you make me feel alive.